I'm just not sure the Kyler Murray is big enough. This is Tom Brady. He's not just going to retire. Whitey, big fan of the show. Appreciate Ryan Murphy to my left, making sure everything's smooth, crispy, buttery. James Harden is systematically ruining the game of basketball. The most overrated player. And there you are, the Chicago Bears with a championship defense. And I'm sure Dancing with the Stars is happy to have Antonio back. If you thought you were going to get Zion, that's your bad. And now listening to Open Season, your host, Billy Allen.
Good evening, and welcome to Open Season. I'm Billy Allen, joined by Frankie Bradica. Tom Brady, he's not going to just retire. He's going to lead his team back from down 16-3 to win at the end of the ball game. Jimmy Garoppolo is hurt again. Are you surprised? Because I'm not. We'll dry Frankie's tears for him, and we'll talk about, let's say, a lot of teams playing good right now. Cowboys, we're not sure how good they'll be playing. It's kind of that time of year for them again. Bucs lead the division. They're kind of their only contenders. Deshaun Watson didn't have a very good debut. Aaron Judge, there's some rumors that he might be going to the Giants. Shea Turner locked up an 11-year deal with the Phillies. I mean, this just kind of seems to be the norm now, is that these guys lock up 11-year deals, 11 years with no trade clause. I don't know what the hell's going on with my camera this evening. It's kind of just giving me some Terminator glitching going on here. But Frankie, as we get going on with the show, Tom Brady just kind of keeps writing this record book, with his 45th comeback win last night, going ahead of Peyton Manning all time. He's had a lot of trouble against the Saints. He's thrown 12 turnovers against the Saints. He has no more than 3 against any other team during his time with Tampa Bay. Traditionally doesn't do well, wasn't doing well that entire game, but with 5 minutes left, Tom Brady was able to throw a couple touchdowns, come back and win that game. The Bucs don't look like they're dead. They don't look like they're in a great position. I feel like they're kind of held together with bubblegum tape and Tom Brady. But what did you think as Tom Brady kind of walked off last night, so to speak, in that victory?
I mean, I'd have to go back, but I'm pretty sure it was with just under 3 minutes, they were down 2 possessions. But at any point, did you think that Tom Brady wasn't going to come back? The Saints have been awful all year, and if you leave it up to chance, Tom Brady will take the chance. He has proven that time and time again, even this old, and some of the passes on that drive, just zinging it in there. I mean, that's old school Tom. Old school gunslinger, all the Brett Favre that he doesn't have. When the money's on the table, Tom Brady is still the man. He's still the guy.
It almost reminded me of the Brady that we're getting this year. Almost is kind of reminding me of that first year, almost, where it's like he may not be good the entire game. I mean, you were asking, was it ever in doubt? I feel like through 3.5 quarters, it was kind of in doubt last night. But when he had to have it, I mean, he was airmailing guys last night. Guys weren't catching balls, but when they had to have it, it was kind of like that Atlanta Super Bowl when there was no moment left. When there was nothing left for them to go, they kind of went straight and scored all those points. Last night, with 3 minutes left, they basically couldn't make a single error in order to score those 2 touchdowns. And it was like Tom Brady kind of pulled everything. He was right on the money when they had to have it. But it didn't look great through 3.5 quarters. It was just like they flicked on a switch that you didn't see kind of happening during that game.
No, but even in this game, what's indicative of Tom is, yes, he raises the level of players around him, but also sometimes they're just good at make plays for him because of their belief in him. That ball to Julio Jones was supposed to be back shoulder. That adjustment by a washed-up Julio Jones is exactly what we're looking at. That Edelman catch in that very same Falcons Super Bowl, which in all honesty should have been a fumble, or should have been incomplete, rather. That's what we're talking about. It's not just that Tom is reliable and he has ice water in his veins. It's that because of who he is, the players around him make plays they wouldn't usually make or make for another player / team. He's got this intangible effect.
Yeah, and I feel like the Bucks really are not a very good team this year. Like they're really being held together with Brady. You look at the game last night, you look at the Rams games. If you don't have Tom Brady, you lose both those games. I mean, those are two games I could think of off the top of my head. I'm sure you could probably look at a couple others. If Tom Brady isn't there, they're probably one of the more bottom teams. And I guess it goes back to the whole could Brady have dealt with this Patriots team? And now that there's rumors of him potentially coming back, I mean, if Tom Brady was the quarterback this year, it's not to say that they could win a Super Bowl, but they could definitely compete. And the Patriots have kind of mailed it in 2 out of these 3 years. They've really thrown away seasons. The Cam year was a thrown away year. This year is a year that they're throwing away. So these years post Brady, it's been pretty tough, and it's getting people talking about Brady potentially coming back to Foxborough. I'm not taking the cheese on this, Frankie. It sounds just like a Christmas story to me. The whole Brady coming back to Foxborough. I don't think it's happening. Do you? You think there's any chance?
Brady's not coming back. No chance. But let's not confuse the Patriots roster with the Buccaneers roster. Bucs have way more players on both sides of the ball. You can name 4 receivers in the Buccaneers that you would rather have over the best receiver on the Patriots, whoever that may be.
And maybe even Scotty Miller.
Yeah, I just think
he'd be a big pass.
Are these Bucs worse than that Seattle team that was under 500 and made the playoffs?
Probably not. I just feel like this Bucs team isn't a very strong team.
Until when, right? As long as they peak late in the season, they'll be fine. I'm just not worried about them because they have Tom. If you have 4 games to win and you have Tom Brady and a talented roster around him, you've got a good chance to win any game. I mean, that's kind of my point on the whole thing. I think Tom Brady, for what it's worth, is still the quarterback I'd want on my team if I've got one quarterback for one win. He's still that guy. Aaron Rodgers put on a come-from-behind performance. We've seen Mahomes do it a lot. We've seen Joe Burrow do it. But at the end of the day, I think for my money, Tom Brady, if I have one game, one win, I still want that guy at the helm. You're muted.
I don't know what is going on. I was basically just saying I don't think that's the debate. I just feel like they're not a very strong team aside from Brady, really. I mean, obviously, I'd rather have Brady on a good team.
But if you have the quarterback, everything else could work. You've got to be a special type of 2010 Jets or that 2000 Ravens. You got to be a special team to have an inept offense and win. You've got a good quarterback. You've got a damn shot. And Devin White has had a bad year. And Levante David hasn't had a great year. And they've got players on both sides of the ball. I won't be surprised if they are Vita Vea is a player. They have weapons that the Patriots don't have. So they've been a bad team. They've still got the talent to be a better team and the quarterback to draw that out of his teammates.
Yeah. So you were saying that there's no shot that he comes here, or that he goes to New England. Where do you think those rumors are coming from? Do you think if you were to say whose camp those were coming from? Are they coming from is that Patriots talk? Is that Brady's agent? I mean, it just feels like
it's definitely not Bill, right? We can write him off right away. It's definitely not Bill.
Probably not Bill.
So it's Brady or Kraft, and either way, it looks bad and desperate. I hope it's both. I hope they really want this because Bill won't accept this, and I'd love to see how it all plays out. I don't know why for him it would make sense. We don't have a good team. I don't get why it would make sense for Tom.
I don't get why it would make sense for Tom either. I think Tom is probably going to go to, if I had to guess the team he's going to go to, well, now, I mean, you look at San Francisco losing Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, they just kind of cleared him out of the way, cleared the landing room for for Brady. I think he's either going to go to the 49ers or probably go to the Vegas Raiders. And I think both those teams are equipped to win now. They're in places that Brady wants to be. I honestly don't even think the Patriots will be a consideration for him. He may just flirt with the Patriots or something to, put one over on Belichick, but I don't think he's interested in coming back here. I think that opportunity was gone years ago. And I don't think Belichick is going to change at this point in his career. I mean, look what he's doing to Mac Jones this year. Do you think that Tom Brady looks at that and says, like, hey, that looks like a Belichick that's willing to be flexible, hiring his friends and putting them at the helm?
To be fair, if Brady was still here, I doubt Belichick would have had the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
I doubt Matt Patricia would be offensive coordinator if Tom Brady was still here. Secondly, as I've already said, Mac Jones may feel however he wants to, but he's also not been good. So he should be questioning the coaches less and doing more often. I mean, he's not been good enough to say jack. The young players nowadays who have done nothing that complain, they're not as rare as they should be. Let me just say that. I think you hit the two teams right on the head. I think it's 49ers or Raiders, and it's got to be the 49ers. Better storyline for the NFL, better narrative, more realistic, more likely. Would you rather have Debo or Devontae Adams? Doesn't really matter. Kittle or Waller doesn't matter. Josh Jacobs or McCaffrey doesn't matter. I think I'd definitely rather have Shanahan over McDaniels, but McDaniels made the playoffs with Tebow. And Shanahan, without Jimmy Garoppolo, don't you speak over me, is less than 500 because Jimmy is that guy. The patron saint of winning has been taken away from the 49ers. If history is to prove anything or be an indicator of anything, 49ers will fall down the tube. Been such a dominant team, but when you lose a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, when you lose that caliber of winner, your team is bound to go down the tubes.
And so that's where I just have to go AWOL here and click off the show for a minute. No. So Jimmy G, I mean, at this point, you just expect that this guy's going to get hurt every single year.
I don't. But
what has he been healthy 2 years of his career?
Oh yeah, he just made the Super Bowl, went to the NFC title game.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's very rare that this guy is healthy for an entire year. And you saw Brock Purdy come in the game, and I mean, he picked right up where Garoppolo left off, threw 2 touchdowns and a pick, slaughtered the Dolphins.
He did, but Beathard had a good start. All right, let's not all start circle jerking just yet. We have lost Jimmy Garoppolo, a stud winner. Brock Purdy can come in and do a decent job, but even if his stats are better, is he the winner with the pedigree that Jimmy G is?
I mean, Jimmy G wins by accident. We've gone over this before, but he has like he's 10-2 when he throws 0 touchdowns.
Imagine the win. Yeah, let me flip that coin. You just said
what team is better when they play with their backup quarterback? You always cite the record that he has. I mean, and you talk about these other guys, what they've done in his position. What other team is playing well with their backup quarterback? I mean, it doesn't happen often.
Bill in New England played well with
I know the Cardinals do well with Colt McCoy for 2 games every year, but
listen, I just gave you one. Belichick in New England with his backup quarterbacks has been just fine. I think the Eagles won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles as a backup. They're fine. I think Tim Tebow made the playoffs as a backup when Kyle Orton was a freaking starter. I think there are examples where, and there's also examples of like good starters, like a Brad Johnson, a John Kitna, or Drew Stanton. There's examples of guys who are just quality backups, even though they're not starters. So if the 49ers had gotten one of these guys, maybe different. Brian Hoyer, another example of one of those guys. But unilaterally, CJ Beathard has not been. Mike Glennon has not been. The guys that they've had have not been. That's not Jimmy G's fault. And the numbers are the numbers, whether you like them or not. He is a GD winner, baby. You say by accident. I say, how much does your team believe in you for you to be able to win with 0 touchdowns? They think you are the bee's knees, no matter how long that game goes. They think you'll pull it out. And guess what? They did. They usually do.
I mean, every team would want to win by not producing any touchdowns, but that's just what happens when Jimmy Garoppolo is behind center. A lot of times there's no touchdowns produced.
Yeah, but he still wins because his teammates know what the deal is, buddy.
If his last name was Johnson, you'd never hear from him.
His last name isn't Johnson, and his Johnson is very big because it leads to wins.
Are we sure about that?
No, definitely not. But he did date that porn star, so like who knows?
Yeah. Well, let's see. Why don't we go on to the the Eagles from there? I mean, Jalen Hurts just kind of keeps throwing and running for and accounting for a lot of touchdowns. The Eagles are putting up a ton of points. I mean, they were putting up points last year before Jalen Hurts made this jump. Are you believing anymore in the Eagles?
No, I'm not. And the reason is, much like in the NBA, I think the Eastern Conference, the championship is coming from there. I feel the same way in the NFL. I think the AFC has the 2, 3, or 4 best teams, or 2, 3, or 4 most likely teams to win a Super Bowl. And I don't think the Eagles are there. I don't fully believe in them. I love this team because I love the players on it. But I just, when you have to make only tight window throws and 3 yards per carry, and you have to be consistent in your approach and your game plan and your coaching, I'm not sure they have the coaching. I'm not sure their players are mature enough. I'm just not sure in a high leverage situation they're going to keep being this spectacular at offense. But they've been a wonderful team to watch. I love the players on it. Love D. Smith. Love Brown. Love Hurts. Love Goddard, who should be coming back before the end of the year. Fletcher Cox is still there. I know the defense has played well, but it's really the defense I don't fully believe in. Like, I can say whatever I want to about the offense, and I do think they're a little young, but it's the defense I'm worried about. I don't believe in their defense at all. And I just don't think, again, in a high leverage situation, they've been there or that they can do it. I don't care what their record is.
I mean, if I told you that Jalen Hurts would only have 3 picks to this point in the season and that he would have, I don't even think he has 10 picks on his career yet. Like, would you believe me at all that he would only throw 3 picks to this point? It's pretty incredible, the leap that this guy's made in a couple of years. You didn't even think this guy was a legit quarterback 2 years ago.
No, I did not, which is unfortunate. But that's because I watched Josh Freeman and Terrell Pryor and Braxton Miller ruin it for guys like Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has been so poised. He has looked so good. What he's actually been is what scouts thought Kyler Murray was going to be. But I would argue I didn't believe in Kyler either. There's just something about when it's nut cutting time. Can you make tight window throws? And I'm just not there yet with Jalen.
Even if he is putting up like 35 points in fantasy every week.
But there's so many spectacular plays. There's so many 20-yard runs or 30-yard jump balls to just amazing wide receivers. Like, when you have to make 20 contested completions to win a game, I don't know he's there yet.
Yeah.
I know his receivers are there. I don't know he's there.
Okay. We'll get you there soon enough. If you're a believer in Jimmy Garoppolo, I think I'm gonna get you believing in Jalen Hurts pretty soon. I mean,
let's not start throwing people on the Jimmy Garoppolo tier just yet.
Oh, so Jalen Hurts is below the Jimmy Garoppolo tier. Is that what you're saying?
Maybe not this year statistically, but one guy's been to a Super Bowl and the other guy is Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. I mean, Trent Dilfer's been to a Super Bowl. Are we gonna go nuts over that?
Didn't he win one?
Did Trent Dilfer win one? Yeah.
So isn't he also a tier above?
No, that's what I'm saying.
No, just because he is. I would argue.
You think Trent Dilfer is a tier above Jalen Hurts?
Oh yeah, the year he won. Oh yeah,
dude, that is insane. Trent Dilfer's like one of the worst starting quarterbacks ever. What are you talking about?
And yet he won a Super Bowl. which is more than Jalen Hurts can say.
So Jalen Hurts wouldn't have won that Super Bowl? Is that what you're saying?
He might have thrown picks or fumbles. We don't know. We'll never know. What we do know is that Trent Dilfer led that team down the field into one of the most dominant defenses that has ever been. Trent Dilfer for president. I like winners.
Oh my God. I mean, this has just gone absurd. You've gone way over to the other side. I mean, I know you can't. I mean, I know you're a troll's troll, but you can't honestly believe this.
I love Troll's Troll, and you have no idea what I genuinely believe. I will argue any point. But from a more abstract point of view, Dilfer's got one. Jalen doesn't. Like, give him some time. He's on a wonderful team. They're very fun to watch. I don't trust him in the fourth quarter down 2 possessions. Not one bit. And for the record, there's so few quarterbacks I do, but he's not one of them.
And you trusted Trent Dilfer, is what you're saying.
If he has that
defense, or you trusted that defense.
I trust that there's complimentary football being played.
Well, one guy that I trust is going to play well with the game on the line is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is 3-0 against Mahomes, 1-0 in the playoffs. All 3 of those wins have come in 2022. It's been quite a year for him putting the smackdown on Mahomes. When it comes down to it, with the Bengals getting Chase back, obviously with the run that they made last year, the way that Burrow's played in close games, are you expecting them to go on a similar run to last year?
I don't know if I can say similar run because there's just so many variables in hockey and in football that you can't foresee. But that's no small thing. 3-0, 1-0 in the playoffs. And we spoke last week, how many points do you need to be up to where when you give the ball to Patrick Mahomes, you're like, okay, we're going to win this. But don't you get that feeling sneakily about Burrow as well? Like, didn't you get the feeling in the fourth quarter, oh, yeah, this isn't over? Burrow, but it's not because Mahomes is on the other side. In this game, it's because Burrow is on the other side. And that guy's got ice in his veins just as much as this dude. I mean, that game, for being, neither team scored 30, was very exciting, very suspenseful, very exciting. And I love Burrow. I love Joe Burrow. He's number 2 on my list. I'd take him over anybody else that isn't named Patrick Mahomes. I love that man.
Yeah, and I would definitely, that's kind of where I'm ranking some of the top quarterbacks. I know that this show, we have a healthy bias against Josh Allen, don't we? I mean, what number is he for you? You still have Aaron Rodgers above Josh Allen, or has that tapered off yet?
Come from behind victory for the Packers, a team I told you could still make the playoffs mathematically, and here they are making their playoff run.
Oh, are they making a playoff run?
Playoff run, sir.
And what does that mean? They'll win 6 games this year. What does that playoff run consist of?
Make the playoffs. They will make the playoffs and upset their divisional round opponent or their wild card weekend opponent. They will then get absolutely ran over by whoever they meet on the other side of that. But that's no matter for the sake of this prediction.
Yeah. Well, it seemed like the Chicago Bears were gonna, kind of turn things around a little bit after they scored so many points against the Patriots. Justin Fields got running well. And I mean, he's still running all over the place, still playing pretty well. But you think he's going to get stopped pretty soon? You think people are going to figure him out? I feel like he's not going to keep running like this. I mean, he wasn't even this type of quarterback in college. So he's a great athlete. He's been running crazy, but this can't continue for very long, can it?
The running can continue. And I would make the argument, had they let him run right away, he'd be far more equipped to handle whatever the adjustments are going to inevitably be. Because defensive coordinators will figure him out, no question. He still doesn't have the best fundamentals with his feet or his shoulder and hips when he's throwing the ball, but he's got a rifle arm and can run this well. This is not an aberration. He is faster in game than his numbers would indicate, than his 40 would indicate. He's shifty. He's elusive. He's got a little bit of that early Russell Westbrook Russell Wilson to him, and it's fun to watch. I think he's faster than that, and he's definitely got a better arm. My bigger thing is he plays injured, and I don't think he'll have any idea what to do. Like, to your point, will they stop him? No. Will they figure him out? No. But they'll figure out how to stop the running, or at least not let that beat them. And at that point, it's about sliding in the pocket and moving up in the pocket for a guy like that. Because he's got the tools. He doesn't have the players around him, but he's got every tool in the book. So if he can develop, then yeah, he'll be able to do it. I'm not overwhelmingly confident in it, but I thought he was the best quarterback in that draft. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And I just feel like people key in on the run eventually. It's like even when you're Mike Vick or Kaepernick or whoever it is, eventually people kind of figure out to stop the run and make you do other things. And I mean, Justin Fields, I thought that he was more of, going to be better of a better passer. And it seems like he's been much more of a better runner, but I feel like people are going to eventually slow that down and make it so that he's got to beat him via the throw. And, that's when you'll see.
He can do that. Give him an actual offensive line, because I believe Fields can do that as well. I think Fields can beat you both.
How good do you think Fields will be at the end of it? Is he going to be like a Deshaun Watson? I mean, how good do you think he'll be at the end of the day? So I feel like people have been all over with them. I mean, literally last year, he didn't even look like an NFL quarterback. And then the first couple
of games. He can be better than Jalen Hurts. I think he can be.
You are ridiculous on your hatred for Jalen Hurts.
I think he can be on par with Josh Allen.
You think he could be on par with Josh Allen?
Yeah.
You hate Josh Allen too.
No, it's about the ceiling. He's got a lower floor than those guys, but he's got as high a ceiling. He's got all the tools. If this was a baseball player, you'd say he's a 5-tool player. Now, does that mean anything? Does that mean he can hit a curveball? Does that mean he's got longevity or going to stay healthy? No, but he's got all the tools. No question about it.
So let's see. We were just talking about Deshaun Watson a little bit. Deshaun Watson with kind of a tough start. You thought that they were in a decent position to just be able to plug somebody in with their offensive and defensive line. Or at least I did. I thought Deshaun Watson would be pretty good over there, but I didn't think it was going to be this year automatically. Before the show, you were mentioning though that you're wondering if they should have kept Jacoby Brissett in there. You're on mute.
Yeah. So I came out last week and I said, I expect him to play well immediately. It's the quarterback position. It's, 80% mental and all those things. He didn't lose his ability to throw. He's still young. He threw a lot of balls in the dirt. He looked an awful closer to Cam Newton than I thought. It was bad. And I don't know that I'd start Brissett, but I do think if I'm the Browns management and I have a team who's been trying to change culture for the last 4 years or so, I do think I'd put the best quarterback in. And if that's Brissett right now, I would start him. Again, me personally, I wouldn't do that, but as an organization, the Browns are walking a fine line here.
I think
because they have all that money tied up in him. And if he loses any confidence, they'd be screwed. I mean, he looked like a guy who hasn't played in 2 years.
Well, that's because he hasn't. No, and I kind of thought the same thing. Just with him, it's going to take time. Like when you haven't played for 2 years against the best athletes in the world. I mean, it's not like he was playing in some semi-pro league or doing anything to kind of keep the rust off. But at the same time, how long can you keep the Band-Aid of Jacoby Brissett on there? You've got to rip it off at some point, and they weren't winning games this year anyway, so you might as well have Deshaun Watson come in, find his rhythm, lose these last couple of games, whatever it is. Maybe he wins 1 or 2, but at least then you're in a good position for next year where he's gotten some snaps with this offense. He's knocked some of that rust off, and then you could talk about competing next year.
Repeat that, I'm sorry. Just the last line.
Just talking about how he's going to knock the rust off this year and then be able to be in a decent position to compete next year.
I, again, as I said last week, thought he would be in position to compete immediately. It's how you look. It doesn't necessarily matter if you win or lose. My problem is he was throwing it in the dirt, throwing it over his players' heads. I didn't think it would look like that. And I don't, and you and I have disagreed on this all year. I don't think the Browns roster is very good. I don't think that they have invested in him and the rest of the team. I just don't
They have
think
a good offensive line. They have a good defensive line. They have 2 good running backs. I mean,
I,
what else do you want?
they've got one good running. They've got one elite running back. They've got an elite defensive lineman who loves getting injured and disappearing. I don't believe in that team as a whole. He looked bad. And if I'm the organization, I seriously consider Brissett. As an individual, I'm starting him and letting him knock his own rust off, as you said. But I don't think they'll be competing next year unless they have a good draft or a good dip in free agency. He can only do so much. He is great. He's good for, call it, 4 wins above your average quarterback. But not playing like that, he's not.
I guess my point is you put in the investment to get Deshaun Watson. Are you going to like get cute here and try to win a couple games at the end with Jacoby Brissett? Or are you going to try to set yourself up to have Watson playing at his peak, which is going to be the best way that you're going to contend if you're going to contend in the next few years?
I think if you're going to contend in the next few years, has nothing to do with these next few games. I think it's about the draft and it's about free agency. Does anybody want to play with Deshaun Watson? Because again, eventually the rust will be off. I don't think it'll take that long. But I think he could just be Justin Herbert if they don't put a good team around him.
Mm-hmm. So that would be bad if he was Justin Herbert?
Does Justin Herbert make winning plays?
Occasionally.
Deshaun Watson was making winning plays. So you'd like to see him get a receiver, a tight end that isn't the jack in the box of mediocre tight ends they've got over there. Like, I just think he was so good. I really liked Deshaun, but it didn't look good at all. It didn't look good at all. And the way it was rusty, like a guy who hasn't played. You could let him play one more game and call it a day. But what if Jacoby wins you 2 games and makes the morale of your team better?
Yeah. So another team that didn't look good this weekend that doesn't have the best morale right now is the Patriots. They lose a game 24-10 to the Bills, which honestly felt like 70-3. That's going to be the closest, or it felt like that game was like 70 points away, but they only lost by 2 touchdowns. A lot of people in the aftermath of that said that the Patriots looked worse than they did in the postseason games last year. What did you think about their effort and that loss? It was really like the Buffalo kind of just managed that victory against that. It was like the way that Patriots used to win games where they just get ahead and get the hell out of there in the second half.
That's exactly what happened. The Patriots' effort was fine. They're always well coached and trying very hard. The Bills are so much better. They won that game in their sleep. The Bills are so much better. That game, by the way, horrible to consume. It was more exciting to watch the win game last year because at least there was elements of weather. This game was just boring for the sake of boring. And yeah, you're right, 24-10, it felt like 1,000,000-10. But it's not like the Bills looked as good as they've looked in prior weeks. This game was just not that entertaining to watch from a consumer standpoint. Patriots have been bad. You have Bill Belichick talking about, it's the wrong time to change offense. It's too late for that. We just need to do what we're doing better. Well, when is that going to start? Because your teams look horrible. You seem to have a quarterback controversy where 2 quarterbacks have no arm and can't throw. You have a complicated offense that none of your receivers can perform in. Your first-round draft pick of receiver has been nothing, a non-factor, a net nothing. I mean, they're embarrassing.
Yep. And Peter King actually came out with an article today that I thought was extremely interesting, with Belichick being 21 wins away from getting to Shula. He was mentioning, does he think that, starting to wonder whether or not he'll get that done in New England. Now, I think that Belichick's going to be a lot more likely to stay in New England at this age in his life, with his kids firmly cemented, because wherever he goes, he's going to want to bring his kids into the fold. He probably wants to leave with his kids being head coaches or being damn close to it. I feel like Belichick is going to be more likely to take a back seat or do whatever it is that Kraft asks of him. How likely do you think it would be for Belichick to leave New England? Do you think there's any chance there? You told me there's no chance of Brady coming back. Is there any chance of Belichick leaving?
No. I first guessed this. I said this at the time. He would have gone to the Giants particularly 5-6 years ago when he was much younger. The idea of 70-year-old Bill going to a different team and trying to rebuild the infrastructure that he has after 20 years of being here is just not realistic. Yes, he wants to bring his kids. Yes, he wants to bring his friends. But I think all of that is less material than he doesn't want to start over. And the team was out there. The Giants, it would have been that team. That is the other franchise he would have wanted to coach. They were looking for a coach. We could have shipped Brady to the 49ers. We could have shipped Bill to the Giants. And we would have had Jimmy G, Josh McDaniels, and a bevy of first-round picks. That was the move. The idea that Belichick at 70 is going to go somewhere else is laughable. And I'd like to see it. There are teams, I think, that would improve dramatically from having a Bill Belichick coach. But I don't think it happens. I don't think he's willing. I don't think he wants it. And I don't think another team in the league is going to let Steve Belichick make those faces on the sideline. I just don't see it. And lastly, and I'm sorry I ran long with this answer, and I've said it before, is Kraft going to let Parcells, Brady, and Belichick go?
No, I think the answer is definitely no. I think that when he chose Belichick, he kind of, sold his soul to the devil, so to speak, and basically said it's going to be, I missed with those other two. So that you just mentioned. And so now I'm going to make sure that I get it right with Belichick. Belichick's going to be able to do whatever he wants. But at the same point, I do feel like I do think Kraft is going to say, look, we're not going to let this crap fly with Matt Patricia. I do think that we will see somebody, a more esteemed offensive mind on the sidelines next year. That is my prediction.
I know we argued about this last week, but do you think that Kraft has the authority to do that without firing Bill?
No, but I feel like he's a results-oriented guy. He let Belichick, he said that Belichick had kind of earned to be able to take this shot and do what he did. And I think he said, like, okay, if this works, then like you've earned the shot to be able to do this and see if it works. But if it doesn't, then I'm going to be able to have some more say.
I just think that Bill would never allow a clause like that in his contract.
What pull does Bill have at this point? I mean, Kraft's got him at this point.
With the rest of the world, zero. With Robert Kraft, he's got all the leverage that he's ever had. He got rid of Brady for Belichick. For him to pull up 180 now would almost be suspect, independent of whether or not it's the right decision. Tom Landry coached too long. Paul Brown coached too long. That's what usually. Dick Vermeil coached too long. That's what usually happens.
Dick Vermeil coached too long? What? Didn't he go out with that on that Super Bowl with the Rams?
Yeah, but he had mediocrity before that, and he was so old. You could have coached that team. He was so old.
Yeah, but I just feel like for him, he basically went out on top, and that Super Bowl is what he was missing, to be able to kind of be like a legend.
Okay, I guess. I've never thought he was a good coach.
All right.
Look, I like rings. I like winners. It's better that he has one than doesn't have one, so I accept this.
Mm-hmm.
I still think he coached too long. I still think he had very, very little to do with that team, especially when you look at what Mike Martz is known for and what that team did well. I just feel like he had great coordinators and great players. He was Buddy Ryan, but to that Eagles team or to the '85 Bears, except there wasn't a Mike Ditka.
Yeah.
Like he's not a head coach material.
So the Vikings win this weekend. They win 27-22 over the Jets and over Mike White. The Vikings, though, they're 10-2, and they've won their games by a combined 10 points. Isn't that amazing? I mean, they've got to be the worst 10-2 team that we may have seen in years. Like, could you think of a 10-2 team that's more beatable than this Vikings team right now?
Some of those Matt Schaub Texans teams, maybe that Rex Grossman Bears team, but no, it's few and far between. I mean, it's not a common occurrence that you get to be 10-2 in this league, and I still have no faith in you whatsoever. The Minnesota Vikings are still a trash football team. They have the best receiver in the world, and maybe the best running back in the world. And they've got no defense, of not great offensive line, and a Kirk Cousins, which limits you immediately.
It sure does.
Do you have any faith in Kirk? Like, if they were to win out and they were to go 15-2, do you think they're going anywhere?
No.
I don't either. And I want to say yes. For the record, and we all know this, I have a bias. I love corners. I love safeties. I love wide receivers. For them to have Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson, I want to root for this team so goddamn badly. Just like I wanted to root for Culpepper, Moss, and Carter. But they don't have enough. And that quarterback will never win anything. Now, if you give them a guy like Jimmy G, maybe their fortunes change.
Now, another quarterback that'll never win anything, Baker Mayfield, was claimed off waivers by the QB needy Rams. Are you excited to see what Baker Mayfield could do with LA? Does this guy have a shot at reviving his career at all? I wouldn't have no interest in playing Baker Mayfield, but it seems like this guy's a cat and is going to have 9 lives in the NFL.
I think, without question, you've got to give him a chance if you're the Rams. The Rams have gone through so many quarterbacks. It's been kind of tragic to watch this year for them. I mean, you talk about a team who genuinely just looks checked out and has since week 1. Week 1, they got absolutely embarrassed, and they have done very little since then to make you feel better about them and their prospects. I want to see Baker Mayfield do it for Baker. I didn't believe in him, but I've always wanted to kind of see him succeed. I'm different than most older guys. I want the nut grabbing in college. I want the flag stamping in the middle of the field. I liked Baker Mayfield's attitude. He's just not been a good NFL quarterback. But if you're going to be one, wouldn't you rather be in that system, a McVay system, where in theory you'll have guys wide open even if Cup's not there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think for him, it's like a dream scenario. I'm like a chance for him to go there. If he just buys in and does well these last few games, I mean, he could, put himself in a position to either stay there or get a decent contract. I think for him, it's a great scenario.
I know it was reported.
And they need a quarterback right now, so.
I know it was reported ahead of time that the 49ers were not going to be interested in Baker Mayfield, but don't you think they should have indeed been interested in Baker Mayfield?
Well, I mean, I guess they like what they've got there in Brock Purdy.
I mean, I don't know much about Brock Purdy, and I do know that Baker Mayfield's not that good, but there's also a good chance that Baker Mayfield is better than Brock Purdy. So it would just be interesting to me that you make that trade for a running back and then are too scared to grab a quarterback off waivers that at least was the first overall pick.
Yeah, I would hope that the first overall pick would be better than Mr. Irrelevant. I would hope that they could get that.
Yeah, but he is, right? Like, I think Baker's trash, but he's not more trash than Purdy.
Yeah, no, that's basically what I'm saying. Like he's going to be better than Purdy. And I don't.
A team that almost can't. I don't know if they're officially eliminated, but they're not going to the playoffs. The 49ers should have been in because they're leading their division, and they're about to go into the last couple of weeks with Purdy.
So if we go to the MLB for a minute, the Yankees, they re-signed Cashman to a 4-year deal. I can't understand why that guy gets re-signed over and over again. I feel like every year, all you hear is Yankee fans want to fire this guy, and then somehow he has a job. Can you explain to me why he has a job?
No, I can't. And again, at the time, and Girardi hasn't been good in his next stop, but I think Girardi should have been captain. Cashman should have been gone. I don't know how Cashman has. You said Baker has 9 lives. What do you say about Cashman? Cashman has built. There's been one consistent thread since he's been building the team, and it's mental fragility. That team is full of talent and is constantly underperforming. I don't get it. I don't get why he's still there. And especially if they lose Judge, can you imagine the S-storm that will be?
Yeah, how much do you think the Judge is ultimately going to go for? It seems like the Yankees were putting together like a $300 million package for him. And before the show, it sounded like the Giants were maybe going to come close to a deal for him. We've got Whitey from Queens chiming in here. Whitey, what do you think is going to happen with the Aaron Judge saga? You think he's going to be back in New York next year?
What's up, gentlemen?
How's
it going?
I've freaked out and like almost deleted myself probably 3 separate times today because I don't know. Did you guys see the John Heyman tweet?
Yeah, you had sent it. Yeah, I saw that.
So Heyman basically, as all journalists or reporters they always want to be first, to break the news. He sent out a tweet saying all signs pointing to Judge going to the Giants. Everyone freaked out. I freaked out. Yankee Twitter freaked out. I was watching Michael Kay show. They were all freaking out. Literally 3 minutes later, Heyman deleted the tweet and said, "I jumped the gun." Now, Heyman is by all means like very like reputable. Like even Michael Kay said that's his friend and he trusts him. So like he got something. There's a reason why he didn't make it up. There's a reason why he sent that tweet out. And apparently, according to the vibes, like the chatter going on in San Diego right now, in the what's it called, the winter
meetings?
Yeah, the MLB winter meetings. Everyone seems to think he's going to the Giants. Judge basically has not been in communication with the Yankees. They have no idea if he's coming to San Diego or not. It's just very sketchy, and I have a feeling he's going to the Giants now.
So with that being said, how do you feel? I mean, I just feel like all year, all we heard was that if the Yankees don't re-sign Judge, that Yankees fans were going to revolt and set that city on fire. Do you feel like that's the sentiment there, Whitey, that you guys are going to be BS, that you don't bring back Judge?
So it's really going to depend on two things, right? Right now, the Giants offered him 9 years, $360 million. Now, no one knows if the Yankees are planning to top that, because I heard the Yankees were offering 9 years in the lower 300s. But I'm wondering if the Heyman tweet was like basically the Giants like refuted that, like no, that's not true, nothing's official, yada yada yada. They may be denying that to not give the Yankees a chance to up that offer. Who knows? But basically, if the Yankees don't match that offer or exceed it, and he goes to the Giants, we will revolt. I may not even be a Yankee fan anymore at that point.
Look, I want him on the Sox. I just think we need a good old-fashioned bidding war, just like we had with A-Rod. Even if he goes back to the Yankees, I want to see this number platoon. You asked me, what do you think he's going to go for a second ago? $4 billion is what I said. 360 sounds a lot closer than what was originally reported. I didn't hear 9 years from the Yankees. I think I read like 8 at 300, but it's got to be closer to 400 million. I mean, Aaron Judge deserves it. And again, no matter what he gets or where he goes, baseball could use a bidding war for a player of that magnitude.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the first number we heard with Judge from the Yankees was 300 million, right? And I feel like that was a pretty decent slap to, like, I just wonder if that number right there kind of put him off when they started the negotiations, because you feel like he was set to get more money than that. Like, I thought 400 would be kind of like the bottom. I mean, he didn't have this year to get 300 million.
Basically, the reason why I'm freaking out and everyone in the know is that, I don't know if you saw, like today, Judge got named like Time Athlete of the Year. And basically in the article, it was revealed that when he was younger, his goals in life were to be married to his current high school sweetheart, which he is now, and to be playing for the Giants. And this shocked the Yankees. They were pretty much they didn't know what to do with that. They didn't know that was going to be published. Couple that with the fact that there's all this buzz that he's going to the Giants. Also, the fact that Judge was pissed off that Cashman like leaked or let it be known what the offer was that he declined. Right. That he was pissed about that.
I heard that too.
So all signs are pointing to Cashman's bungling this. If we let him go to San Francisco, Yankees fans. The only way we're not going to revolt is if we had a better offer and he willingly chose the Giants. You know what I mean? Because then it was his decision. It wasn't out of us not making a better offer. It was clearly he would rather be in San Francisco. So there's there's no reason for us to be pissed at Cashman or the Yankees. We would only be pissed at Judge. Basically, a Judas moment.
It's that second thing, isn't it? You're the Yankees, much like my argument with the Red Sox. You're the Yankees. They should. If you're going to lose, it's because that player wanted to go somewhere else. You have the best resources and the most money to offer him. So you cannot lose because you wanted to nickel and dime him. You have to lose because he flat out wants to be somewhere else. If you're the Yankees, you have to top whatever offer comes out.
Exactly, and a lot of it also goes down to like, does he want to be in competition for a World Series every single year? Like, because the Yankees are basically given the best shot to win consistently. Does he care at all about the Yankee legacy, or does that matter to him? It really just depends to that and the money. If we give the better offer and he declines, that means that the whole Yankee history, all that, like, basically doesn't mean anything to him.
Did the Yankees put him in position to win, or is he putting the Yankees in position to win? Because they've had so many injuries and such a poor bullpen. I'm not sure you can even say the Yankees are the team that puts them in the best position to contend year after year. I don't believe that necessarily.
Well, I mean, the Yankees basically had an absurd record in the first half of the season, and they basically lost half their bullpen. They lost DJ LeMahieu. Injuries rattled them. They still won the AL East. So it's just, if you look at the Yankee history, we missed the playoffs like one time in the last 20 years. I mean, we're consistently in the playoffs every single year. So the Giants were what, 82, and they had like a 500 record last year.
Don't they have 2 World Series in the last 20 years, or 3?
Yeah, that's true. But they also they didn't have to deal with the cheating Astros, so you know.
They also didn't have an Aaron Judge. So just imagine what Buster Posey and Aaron Judge could have done. Because the Yankees, like I've said, have built a very mentally fragile roster around Aaron Judge.
Yeah, the Giants are kind of like the Sox. Like, they churn out these World Series every few years or whatever. And then they back down to like mediocrity, but then they come up and win a World Series. So I guess, like, on the whole, you know, they're doing well, but they have some frustrating. I mean, no one frustrates you as much as the Sox, but
yeah. And if you're Judge, do you want to deal with the Dodgers every single year, and now the Padres with Soto and Tatis? Like, I mean, I know the AL East is crazy hard also, but I don't know. I feel like he's going to have stiffer competition in that division.
Were you guys surprised about the Trey Turner deal at all? I mean, just what that kind of like does for the value of some of these shortstops. I thought that Bogarts was going to get command close to like 30 million, but seeing that, you know, probably like 25 million or something, but seeing that Trey Turner only got 27 million, you know, I'm wondering if Bogarts could potentially be back with the Sox. What was your reaction to the Trey Turner deal? 11 years, no trade clause as well. I thought that was surprising.
Yeah, I think the Trey Turner deal. Sorry, I think the Trey Turner deal was to be expected. I like him a lot. I think he's got a great winning quotient. He doesn't always put up numbers that'll stagger you, but he's just a winning player. He makes plays. The market for shortstops hasn't been what it used to be because you don't have two-way shortstops anymore. Like, I know they think Tatis is, but most of these guys can field or can hit. And I think Trey Turner's a rare guy who can do both. I think Bogarts was a guy who can do both, but I have less faith in Bogarts doing it moving forward.
Go ahead, Whitey.
No, I was just shocked at 11 years because isn't he like 29 years old?
Yeah.
Because Judge is like a year older, and we're struggling to comprehend a 9-year deal. So 11-year kind of threw me off. I think that maybe screwing the Yankees.
But don't you have to assume that that's like what these pro teams do in terms of there's probably deferred money or ways of doing the bonus so that after a year, call it 5 or 6, it's team friendly or whatever it may be. Like, I don't look at an 11-year deal in any pro sport as an 11-year deal. There's no way it's just like a standard base rate the whole time. There's definitely a way that it is structured to where the latter half of that 11-year deal is very team friendly.
The thing that gets me though is the 11-year no trade. Like, they're going to pay him.
Questionable. The no grade was questionable. I agree. Couldn't agree more.
Like, they're going to pay him all that, and then there's just no way you're getting out of it. I mean, even if you want to just, I feel like the no trade clause is like, why do teams give that up so easy? Like, there used to be like 2 players in the league who had no trade clauses. It feels like now if you get a multi-year deal, it's like you get thrown in a no trade clause. It's like you get the most money and the control over it as well. You should get one or the other. Like, if you're going to get the top dollar, you shouldn't be able to control your destination. Or you could control your destination and you get a little bit less. You're basically getting everything in that side of the equation.
The reason is because, in theory, you can, in almost all sports now, you can move these guys. So a no trade clause isn't a no trade clause as much as it say, hey, when we decide to move you because it didn't work, you will get dibs on where you get to go. It's not actually a no trade clause. It's more of a, we can't trade you to Siberia, which is something that teams did for decades, which was probably unfair to the player. So you'd like to see something in the middle, but when do you get that in sports?
But honestly, that's even better because you get a change of scenery and you're going to make sure that you land in a decent spot. I mean, it's like the player is getting everything in this scenario.
Agreed. But that's what they get in modern sports. That's almost every league at this point.
I wish my work was giving me a similar deal. You're going to be here forever.
Can't fire me unless I get a better job.
And when you do, you got to send me to a good place.
Hey, do we have time to touch on the Mavericks before the end of the show?
Yeah, of course. Let's do it.
All right, because I want to talk about this for 2 weeks, and eventually they're going to win more games, and this argument will look worse. But can somebody explain to me, I know he's a nice guy, I know he's very entertaining on Shark Tank, what Mark Cuban has done in 22 years as owner of the Mavericks? He failed to put a superstar next to Dirk, and he has failed Luka early on. And I just want to know, outside of that ring, which was Luck and LeBron melting, what has he done for that franchise?
He's a victim to the fact that nobody wants to play in Dallas. I don't know what it is, but nobody wants to go. Is DeAndre Jordan the best free agent? Like, DeAndre Jordan at like the end of his career basically is like the best guy that they command. I don't understand it. I was excited when there were conversations about Durant potentially pairing up with Luka. That would have been awesome for the NBA and for, I think, both of them too. But for the life of me, I can't understand why you wouldn't want to go to Dallas, but nobody wants to go to Dallas.
But don't you think that's an indictment on the owner? If you've had a Dirk and a Luka, isn't that about the way the organization is run? Because there's a lot of guys that don't want to go anywhere. But if you've got the guy, guys will go play there. If you've got a superstar, guys will go play with that superstar. This guy's had Dirk and Luka. That's just not good enough to me.
What do you think, Mark Cuban?
This kind of sounds familiar to me as a Knicks fan. Like, why wouldn't you want to go play in New York? Oh, it must be the owner. The only difference, at least Cuban does get a Luka or a Dirk, whereas the Knicks can't get a franchise superstar ever. So, I mean, Cuban has won a ring, has gotten two superstars under his. The Knicks can't do anything.
He drafted both, though. But he drafted both. If the Knicks had drafted Luka, players would have gone there. If they had drafted Dirk, players would have gone there. So Cuban does not draft these players. His team does. I guarantee you he is not in the freaking war room deciding who to draft. I don't think he's that hands-on in the scouting department, where James Dolan probably is. But if James Dolan had hit on those two players, despite being a bad owner, players would have gone there.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with that.
Yeah, what was the best pick that the Knicks have, like the most controversial?
He's better than Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson. Don't get me started. It's Amari Stoudemire.
You're saying free agent wise, Amari Stoudemire?
Yes.
Dude, he almost won MVP that first year that he was in New York. Then he started getting injuries and the whole Melo thing. I mean, that was a mistake to pair him and Melo. They should have just picked one of the two of those guys. And they brought in Amari first, so they probably should have just stayed with it. I mean, they probably should have just brought in Melo first, right? Identified. But it's like
not traded so much for Melo in the first place. They traded so many pieces that were like end of trades future seconds. You're gonna win 50 games in the next 5 years. Trade picks. Why you traded like your end of like your glue guys, your guy that like is going to sit on the bench over there, just like he sat on the bench over here. But as our team is going to get more narrow trading for a superstar, he could actually be of value. And they traded those guys too, the Chucky Atkins of the world. Like I feel like the Knicks gave up way too much in that deal, even though they were getting Melo. Melo wanted to go there. He wasn't going to re-sign. He was gonna go there. They didn't.
Yeah, they could have just waited and not given away those pieces, right? I mean, how close was Melo to being out of that deal? Do you remember?
He was going to be a free agent the next year.
Yeah. So they could have just waited, basically. That was one of the things that was confusing at the time, too. They gave up all those pieces when he was, for like 6 months of Carmelo Anthony.
I would give that up for 6 months of Anthony Davis or 6 months of Garnett in his prime. I would do that for players. I'm not sure Carmelo is one of those players. But Denver Carmelo was different. Denver Carmelo played defense.
Oh, I love Denver Carmelo.
I love that team. Kenny Martin, that team had attitude. Whether it's Chauncey or Allen Iverson, you couple that with Melo and Kmart and Camby and Birdman, and that team was impressive.
Rashawn Leonard was like so wet. He was like a knockdown 3-shot. I mean, they had some sneaky guys.
Eduardo Nahara, Nene. That team was deep and lovable. And then the Knicks traded they traded their entire team to them. And then they just became this depth machine that still won 48 games.
Yeah, and they never addressed the point guard position. Like they basically they never had a point guard. They had like 3 super talented big guys and then Raymond Felton running the point. And they haven't had a point guard for 20 years until Brunson. And he's not enough to move the needle. So
they had 12 games with Jeremy Lin, didn't they?
That's true.
You
were pretty good during those 12 games.
At the end.
All right. Well, hey, we appreciate everybody for tuning in tonight. That's going to do it for us here at Open Season. We'll catch you next week. Same time, same place. Thanks for calling in, Whitey. And we'll check you next week.